I am pretty sure we're the only foreigners to ever come here. Amazing to see 5 of the tallest mountains in the world right behind me. Mount Everest right back there, looming big and tall. Of course, the local Tibetan name for it is Chomolungma, which means Mother Goddess of the Earth, which is the same as the Nepalese version on the other side, which is Sagarmatha, which also implies a similar meaning, Goddess Mother the Earth. So it's a big one. And the cool thing about Tibet is that you see Everest in full relief, whereas if you see it from the Nepal side, as you're doing Everest Base Camp, you really only see the tippy top, and you do see a lot of other 8,000 meter mountains, but here Everest is in front and center stage. Yeah, this is Ben coverage from Elevated Trips at elevatedtrips.com. We're here at 4,998 meters, just a little shy of 5,000 meters. If I could jump really, really high, I might be able to get up to 5,000 meters. Right back here is Yamdrok Lake. This is one of the holiest, biggest, and most beautiful lakes in all of Tibet. Wow, crystal clear, blue turquoise waters, vibrant shining lake under this beautiful blue sky. This is just incredible. And we are on our way to Everest Base Camp. Welcome to Tibet. In this video, we're going to be driving from Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, at 3,650 meters or 12,000 feet, all the way up to Everest Base Camp on the Tibet side. This is a beautiful journey, one of the most amazing overland journeys in the whole world. And we're going to end at Everest Base Camp, sleeping as close as you can to Everest Base Camp without actually having a mountaineer's permit. Come along with us on this amazing journey. Get ready for stunning landscapes, beautiful ancient monasteries, and some of the highest, most rugged terrain in the whole world. Our journey starts in Lhasa, Tibet, and this is about a 2-hour flight from Chengdu. If you fly into Lhasa, you're probably going to have to fly through Chengdu. We recommend flying through Chengdu Tianfu Airport. You can also fly through Xining, Xining Airport. Those are each about 2 to 2.5 hours away from Lhasa, and you're probably going to have to stop in China for domestic flight as you enter into Lhasa. As you enter into Lhasa, you're going to be coming into the airport at about 12,000 feet, about 3,650 meters. That's really high to start your journey. So some people do prefer to take the train into Lhasa, as it's a better way to acclimatize from lower altitudes. But as you arrive in Lhasa, it's 12,000 feet. You're definitely going to feel pretty out of breath. You're going to have a little bit of a headache. So I recommend taking it easy the first day or two. Just do some light walking, but otherwise, don't do too much. Don't plan on your big treks in the beginning of your trip. Put those at the end of your trip when you're actually acclimatized. Just landed in Lhasa Gangar Airport at 3,600 meters. I'm already out of breath, just walking a little bit through the airport. So as you fly into Lhasa, it's about an hour drive into the Lhasa airport. Most people choose to stay inside the Barkhor Square area, kind of the Jokhang Temple area. This is kind of an area that's around maybe 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers. This is kind of the downtown historic area of Lhasa. Surrounding the Barkhor Square is this labyrinth of alleys that sort of winds in and out. It's often difficult to find where you're going, because all these alleys, as you can see behind me, just sort of intertwine and connect like a maze. And so definitely easy to get a little bit lost back here. So for your first or second day, make sure you're with your guide. You'll probably get your bearings over 2 or 3 days. In Lhasa, as you acclimatize, all right, we just arrived in Lhasa, 3,650 meters, 12,000 feet. The snow just cleared for us. The sun has come out, and we're on the 4th floor, one of the local hotels here. And man, it is beautiful. The smell of burnt offerings in the air, snowy mountains in the background, and
We're just a few kilometers from the Potala Palace. It's an acclimatization day, so we are getting our blood ready to get up to Mount Everest. You really have anything you want to buy. I mean, anything from super cheap shoes to Tibetan artifacts, old furniture. If you're looking for Tibetan rugs, prayer beads, anything around Buddhism or Tibetan culture, this is a great place to find it. And these people have come from all over Tibet, not just Lhasa area, but from Kham Tibet, Amdo Tibet, all parts of the Tibetan plateau. And they're all here for one reason, which is to walk this beautiful square and to worship at this particular monastery. So really cool to be here and just love being out here in the morning.
There are nicer Chinese hotels outside of this, and then the rest of the areas outside of this are quite more modern and more developed. So most people, including my trips at elevatedtrips.com, choose to stay in the really historic areas. And there's some really beautiful Tibetan boutique hotels down there, some great Indian and Nepali restaurants. So as far as food in Lhasa, you can expect Chinese food. Of course, you're going to get Chinese hot pot. There's dumplings, all the food that you can find across mainland China. Those restaurants are there as well in Lhasa. There's Sichuan food, all that. I think the specialty for me, and what's really special for me about going to Lhasa, is that there's a great amount of Indian and Nepali restaurants, and many of them have very authentic Indian and Nepali chefs, and many of them have a long history, 15, 20, even 25 years serving tourists. So I definitely recommend checking some of these restaurants out. And there's a lot of variety. You can get vegetarian food, you can get meat dishes, you can get whatever you can get at an Indian restaurant. Normally, those things are also there. Flying into Lhasa is high at 12,000 feet or 3,650 meters. So take your first days pretty slow. We recommend the first day or two just resting. After you spent maybe 3 or 4 days, then you start to head out to Everest Base Camp. What most people do with those first 3 or 4 days is they see cultural monasteries, they do a little bit of light hiking, they do some shopping around Lhasa, they walk around the Barkhor Square. These are all great things to do. In particular, you're probably going to spend your first day or two at the Potala Palace. That is a 1,000-room structure. That is the former home of the Dalai Lama. So they have all the histories of the old burials of the Dalai Lamas buried in stupas there. So the original building here was built in the 7th century by Songtsen Gampo, who was the 33rd king of Tibet.
Okay, looking behind me here, you can really get an idea of the true vertical relief of the palace. We're only about 40% of the way up. So the stairs probably take about 20-30 minutes. Take it slow because the altitude will definitely take your breath away. And yeah, just take it slow, walk a couple meters, take a couple pictures. But this is just absolutely beautiful.
It essentially used to be the governing body for both the spiritual and the political governments in Tibet. So it's very interesting. Essentially today it's just a museum, so it's not a functioning building. But you can see the Potala Palace. That's usually about a half day, and you are going to have to pre-book your tickets with your guide, and there's a very certain time you go in and a certain time you go out, just because there are a lot of people that go in. Do expect a lot of crowds. There's a lot of people. Generally, when I've been to the Potala, it's a beautiful experience. It's very historic, but there are, you're going to have maybe 500 to 1,000 people around you kind of doing the same thing at the same time. Once you've done the Potala Palace, you're probably also going to do the Jokhang Temple. This is the most holy temple in all of Tibet. And it is the most holy because it has one of the oldest statues of the Buddha. Some think the statue is actually as old as the Buddha himself, even 2,500 years old, in the Jokhang Temple. This is also a very crowded experience. You have lots of pilgrims. Remember that this temple is the spiritual heart of Tibet. It is the holiest temple in all of Tibet. There's a lot of pilgrims that come here. So you're not only going to be sharing the space with Chinese tourists, a few other foreign tourists, but you're also going to have hundreds of other Tibetan pilgrims who are prostrating there, saying prayers, fingering prayer beads. It's definitely not a private event, I'll say that. So, but I think it's definitely worth doing. So another thing you're probably going to do is go see the Sera, S-E-R-A, monk debates. This is a spectacular monk debate, and this actually happens in most monasteries. This is the way Buddhists work out Buddhist philosophy, by actually debating Buddhist philosophy, and those that become good in the oral debates actually move up in the hierarchy of the monastery. This happens in most Tibetan monasteries, especially in the Gelugpa sect. But you're not, as a foreigner, allowed to see it except in this one monastery, which is called Sera Monastery. And every day from about 3 o'clock to roughly about 5 o'clock, the monks debate Buddhist philosophy, and it is a real treat to get there and to watch the monks clap their hands and debate Buddhist philosophy. It's very lively, it's very interesting, and you actually are allowed to take pictures as long as you're taking pictures with a smartphone and not a big camera. Once you've spent 3 or 4 days inside of Lhasa seeing all these cultural and historic sites, a little bit like visiting Washington D.C. and kind of visiting the museums there, then you're going to head out to Everest Base Camp. This is a long journey. It's about 1,000 kilometers from Lhasa to Everest Base Camp one way, and so just know you are going to be spending a lot of time in the car. So be prepared for a lot of car time. The drive from Lhasa to Shigatse is about 8 hours, and then from Shigatse to Everest Base Camp is another 8 to 10 hours. So you're going to be spending a lot of time in the car. If you have a longer tour, and that's what we like to do at Elevated Trips, is we like to extend the tour a little bit to create this slow travel experience, and also to help people acclimatize better, you can also stop in a small town called Shigatse. So Shigatse has a little Tibetan Buddhist monastery. It's famous for the Pelkor Kode and its stupa, and that's a really beautiful stupa to walk around. And once you pass Shigatse, then you're going to be at Shigatse. Shigatse is 3,800 meters, so that's about 200 meters taller than Lhasa, and is the second biggest city in all of Tibet. It has roughly about 500,000 people in Shigatse, and there's a Starbucks there, there's nice 4-star hotels there. Shigatse is pretty developed, but once you get west of Shigatse, it definitely starts to get a little bit rougher, especially as you head towards Everest Base Camp. The drive from Lhasa to Shigatse is a long one, but you will stop just about every hour. Some big highlights along the way. You're going to stop at roughly about 4,500 meters at Yamdrok Lake. This is one of the 4 holiest lakes in all of Tibet. It's over 70 miles long and actually drains out a 7,200 meter mountain. Actually 7,191 meters, but it drains a very high glacier, and therefore the water is very pure. It's very beautiful. It's some of the most beautiful turquoise water I've ever seen in my life. That's Yamdrok Lake. It is high. There's some prayer flags there. Really enjoy that stop. So we're right here at 4,998 meters. The lake itself is about 4,300 meters, so it's quite high. You can see I am wearing a short sleeve t-shirt, It is a little windy up here, so most times I've come up here, I've been up here about 10 different times as a tour guide, and most times I've come up here and it is freezing cold. Of course you're at 5,000 meters, but today the sun is so bright that, man, the rays are just warming me up, and it feels so good looking at this lake, and we're just so excited to be here. We're going to be eating lunch in about an hour from the lake, and then from there we're going to be moving on to Karo La Glacier. But this is definitely one of the big highlights on the way to Everest Base Camp. There is a lot of driving as you drive to Everest Base Camp. Lhasa to Everest Base Camp is about 800 kilometers, so it's going to take you 3 or 4 days to get there. But along the way, you're going to be in the car a lot, but you're going to stop at beautiful places like Yamdrok Lake, Karo La Glacier, these high passes with beautiful prayer flags. You're going to drive by some yaks, some sheep. It's going to be amazing and magical. You're also going to be able to stop and take a picture with some Tibetan mastiffs. There's some white yaks, and this is purely kind of a tourist thing where the local Tibetans have learned that foreigners and tourists like to take pictures with these things. It's a little bit cheesy, but actually it's kind of a fun experience to have your picture on a white yak, because when else in your life can you do that? There's also going to be a couple snack stops along the way, a couple bathroom stops, and then you're going to hit the Karo La Glacier. This is one of the highest points of your entire trip at just over 5,000 meters. Karo La Glacier, you're going to stop there, and you're going to hike around for about an hour or 2 hours. And there's a little boardwalk hike there. It's beautiful. It is very high altitude. It's often very, very windy and often very, very bright up there. But there'll be a couple little Tibetan ladies selling some prayer flags and a few little drinks and snacks there. And then from there, you're going to continue on your journey to Jiangse and then to Shigatse.
Woo! This is so stunning. Karo La Glacier. Wow, I'm just in paradise. I could spend all day out here if it weren't so brutally cold and windy. But this is just stunning. Easily one of the great masterpieces, one of the great highlights of visiting Everest Base Camp. Of course, you're going to see Everest. Of course, you're going to, wake up at sunrise and catch the light streaking across Mount Everest. But along the way, man, this does not disappoint. This is just a beautiful glacier.
So, although the driving is a lot, it's definitely a lot of driving time. It is a lot of car time. There are some spectacular things to see along the way. And then, once you depart Shigatse, the scenery gets really, really good, and you start to actually get some views into the Himalayas. This is when it gets really, really radical, and you start seeing some 7,000 and 8,000 meter mountains. In fact, as you approach Everest Base Camp, you're going to drive over two 5,000 meter passes. I think one is 5,100 and one is 5,050 roughly. These two passes are kind of the entrance gate into the Everest National Park. And from these passes, if you have clear weather, you can see 5 of the tallest mountains in the world. This is pretty spectacular. As you start to approach Everest, you're driving through this barren moonscape of rocks. There's no trees, there's not a blade of grass for hundreds of miles. It's radically deserted and harsh, and there's only a few Tibetan nomads that live up at these altitudes. These are going to afford some amazing views, your first views of the Himalayas, and that is really exciting.
This is Jiangse La Pass at 5,248 meters. So this is just a wee taller than we will be at Everest Base Camp. So technically, this is the highest point of our entire journey from Lhasa to Everest Base Camp to Kathmandu. So here we are, 5,248 meters. Probably from here, it's about 4 hours to Everest Base Camp.
We're driving on the road outside of Everest Base Camp, and you can expect a lot of scenery like this for just about the last 100 kilometers, just like barren moonscape. But we actually have stopped right here along the road, and we're gonna check out this little Nomad tent and just see what Nomad life is like. Back here, you see this little tiny little white tent. I mean, it's no bigger than a, American two-person camping tent. But this is where the nomads live, herding their sheep. Look at all these sheep and goats. hundreds of sheep and goats. What I love is that, of course, goats are a little bit more naughty and curious than sheep. And you can see the goats like lining the sides, like trying to get out of the cage, where the sheep are just kind of docile and gentle and hanging out. So definitely a very different personality. In the West, we complain if the Wi-Fi is not fast enough, or the food comes out a little bit late. But as a Westerner, I have now no right to complain any longer, having seen how these guys live. I mean, it's just so simple. You have hundreds of sheep and goats living in these little stone enclosures, and they'll set them free during the day, and they'll graze up in these rugged mountains. I mean, there's barely even any grass on the mountains. I'm not even sure how they eat and sustain themselves. And then you have these guys living in this tiny little white tent, living out here for months in the grasslands. They'll graze these grasslands and then move to the next pastures. And then in the winters they'll move down to a lower altitude, kind of a little bit more into a small village. But yeah, these guys just live super simple, remote, brutal life. I mean, right now it's sunny and I'm wearing a short-sleeved shirt, but this place, 4,500 meters, can just get so intense in any given day, not just in the winter, but you could have a snowstorm roll through here, winds, there's nothing to protect you from the weather, and all they have is a tiny little canvas tent with hundreds and hundreds of sheep and goats. So what a life. Once you've driven through these really high passes at over 5,000 meters, you're gonna get your ticket at Everest National Park. All right, this is it, guys. The real ticket to Chomolungma National Park. Chomolungma is the local name for Mount Everest. And this is our ticket into the park. And you can see we are about 2.5 hours from Everest Base Camp itself. So you do have to purchase a ticket, and then you're going to drive your private car, private van, into the actual park entrance. And at the park entrance, you're going to need to transfer into the national park ecological friendly buses. This is where they kind of pack 30 people onto these buses, and they actually drive you the last hour to what is actual Everest Base Camp. This is not the actual Everest Base Camp for trekkers, but this is as far as people without a permit to climb the mountain can go. So it's actually about 2 or 3 kilometers from the real base camp where the mountaineers sleep, but legally this is as far as tourists can go. But you have a spectacular view of Everest. Most people choose to spend the night at Everest Base Camp. There are a couple lodging options there. You can sleep in the Rongbuk Monastery guest house, which is pretty simple, kind of 3-star accommodations. Or there's Tibetan yak hair tents that are kind of basically like very simple hostel style accommodations where you can have your own private bed, but there's maybe 5 or 6 other people sharing the hostel with you, and you might have your own private bedroom and even have your own private door, but you certainly won't have your own private bathroom. Welcome to Everest Base Camp. Behind me you have Mount Everest, tallest mountain in the world. We're on the Tibet side here, and now you can see there's a huge courtyard behind me, and then back behind me, that brown building, I don't know if you can see it in the distance, that was going to be a hotel, but they didn't get the necessary permissions to build it, so it just stopped halfway through. So now it's just kind of an empty building. And then to my far back, you have these black yak tents. This is where most people will stay as they sleep at Everest Base Camp. So you can actually sleep here, have a nice meal, very simple bed, kind of 2-star, 3-star, kind of dormitory style bed. You can sleep in these yak hair tents and then wake up in the morning and boom, Everest. This is Everest Base Camp on the Tibet side, on the north face of Everest. So we're not at the Mountaineers Base Camp, but this is the tourist base camp where you can come up to 17,000 feet and you can stay in one of these little black yak care tents. They're basically like a little guest house, kind of dormitory. They do have electricity. They do have beds. They do have mattresses, so you can have your own private little room. The room's really, really small. It's not very much bigger than a twin bed, but when you're at 17,000 feet, don't expect a lot as far as accommodation, but it's pretty nice for being so high. And then behind me, this tan building back here is basically a trailer full of squatty potties. So it is a public bathroom. There's not a private restroom here, but for the privilege of sleeping at the base of Everest, you exchange a few little comforts for the fact that you're able to get up in the morning and take a picture of the sunrise over Everest. So right now it's about 8 o'clock. The sun just came up over the ridges here, and this is Everest Base Camp. Absolute desert barren landscape. Man, just look at this. It's so sandy. Oh my gosh. Wow. And what's more incredible is not only are we still in Mount Everest National Park, or Chomolungma National Park as the proper name is, but right behind us, you can't see Everest, but Cho-Oyu, which is one of the tallest mountains in the world, is back there, 8,201 meters tall. That is just absolutely stunning. Just 600 meters shy of Mount Everest itself, and just a neighbor to Everest, respectively, in the Himalayan range. The journey to Everest is so much more than just seeing the highest point in the world. It's a journey inward, a reminder to breathe deeply, to walk slowly, and to honor the beauty of every moment along the way. In this video, we've traveled from Lhasa to Shigatse. We've seen Yamdrok Lake, Karo La Glacier. We've seen some beautiful scenery along the way, beautiful monasteries, and we finished at Everest Base Camp. If you're dreaming of experiencing Tibet yourself, we're here to help. Our team has many years of experience, and I have lived here for over 15 years on the Tibetan plateau, leading safe, meaningful, and well-organized trips for foreigners into the Everest region. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you on the road. Tashi Dulek, and may blessings follow your journey. The sun is going down on Everest. It's been an incredible trip. Subscribe to our channel and check us out at www.elevatedtrips.com. We'd love to take you to some of the most beautiful and rugged places in the world, including Everest Base Camp on the Tibet side.